All right, what is up, fam? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. My name is Austin Kroos, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to use a bait casting reel. I really have been noticing a lot of intimidation and a lot of confusion in the industry, and I really hope to clear that up with this video. So stick around, and I hope this helps you out. So the first thing I'm going to be explaining is the drag. The drag, there's only 3 settings on a bait casting reel. So first and foremost, that's like super crucial to know. A lot of these people that struggle using a bait caster don't know what the settings and customizations actually allow you to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hopefully explain exactly what they do. The first and foremost, it's super simple. It's just like any other fishing reel. You've got your drag, and the drag on a bait casting reel is right next to the handle. It's literally this star drag right here. So it's just like any other fishing reel. You want the drag to be tight enough to be able to get the hook set, but you also want a big fish to be able to pull that drag out if need be, so that you don't end up breaking your line. But that's all I'm going to talk about the drag for, or that's all I'm going to talk about the drag. That's all I'm going to say about the drag. The next thing I'm going to be talking about is actually the fine-tune knob, which is right here. This is something that I think a lot of people don't really realize. But to set this thing up, you don't need to cast. You literally don't want to be setting this up based off your cast. What you want to be doing is set this up as soon as you tie on your lure. This is the first thing that you want to do after setting your drag, is set the fine-tune knob. And the way that you do that is you literally reel that lure all the way up to the rod tip, push down on the button right here that allows this to go into free spool, and it'll do one of 3 things. It'll drop like that, which is that's a pretty good speed, I would say. Or it'll do this. If it's too tight, it won't even move. See that? And what you're gonna have to do is you're just gonna have to loosen that knob right there to make it drop at a nice, steady rate, like that. And the more beginner you are, the slower you want it, I would say. But for me, like, that's a little bit slow still for me, so loosen it a little bit more. That's probably perfect for me. That's where you want it to be. You just want to find your sweet spot. But that's all you do with the fine-tune knob. You always want to reset that when you tie on a new lure. However, when you tie on a new lure and you do exactly what I did without even casting, just do a nice reel to the rod tip, push down on the button, let it drop. All right, that's all you do with that one. Now the next thing and the third thing that you're going to be customizing on a bait casting reel is this brake right here. It's a set of brakes. They call it the centrifugal brake system. I believe that's what they call it. And usually it's labeled. So like this one right here is labeled the highest number, 10 on the bottom, and then the lowest number, 0 on the top, which is a free spool, meaning there are no brakes on it. And I like to explain this as you're essentially just wanting to fine tune this, because as soon as this button goes down, the spool is in a free spool. It can spin both ways. But what you're going to need to do is put these brakes on so that it's going to spin a little bit less fast. Because what happens when you get a backlash, for example, all that's happening is your lure is going too slow or too fast for that spool. But what you want it to do is go the right speed so that it's taking line out just as it needs to, so that you can stop it and not have it get out of control. So I always tell people, start at 10 brakes. There's no reason, if you're casting 5 feet in front of you, that's okay. At least you're not pulling out a backlash every 2 seconds. You're gonna get down the feel for casting, all right? And that's the most important thing. And then what you're gonna wanna do once you get better with that, and once you think that you can cast a little bit farther, you'll drop it down from a 10 to an 8. You take a cast with that, and if it's a little bit, like you feel like you can go a little bit looser, take it down to a 6, make another cast. If you feel like that's good, stick with that. And for that lure, that's all you need to do. You're done setting it up, and you're able to go out and fish and be successful for the most part. Obviously, it's going to take you a year or so for you to be able to get the mechanics down, I'll say. But I don't want you to be intimidated. That's the biggest thing. Like I tell people, bass fishing is just like golf. You can do it all the way until the day you die. So you might as well take advantage of the next 2 years, learn. If you love bass fishing, a bait casting setup is going to help you tremendously. So take the time to learn, and then after that, after 2 years, you're good. The 2 to 5 years that it takes after the first 2 years are going to be beautiful for you. You're going to love life. You're going to literally love bass fishing, and you're going to notice that you're way more successful than using just a spinning reel or a spinning combo for all of your applications for bass fishing. And the reason why is just because bait casters give you different settings. You know, you're able to, for a crank, the gear ratio, for example, you can get bait casting reels that reel in this much line in one crank, or you can get reels that reel in this much line in one crank. And all of that is super, super beneficial for bass fishing techniques, because, you know, a lot of, say for a jig or something, you know, you got a lot of slack line out there. If you can do one crank and get your line completely from slack to taut, that is a game changer to be able to get that hook set properly and right on time. So I just think you can't achieve that with spinning reels. Right now, the technology allows you to get a 6:2 to 1 gear ratio spinning reel. They might have a few above that, but as far as bait casting goes, you can get something like, I think the Abu Garcia's got a reel out there that'll allow you to get something that's a 10 gear ratio, meaning it's reeling in so much line per crank that it's insane, you know? So I just genuinely think that it's a super, super, super amazing tool to have in your back pocket as a bass fisherman. And I think bait casting is something that every bass fisherman should utilize. And the next thing I did want to just include in this video, because I get this all the time, is, you know, how much should you be spending? How much, and what should you get when you spend this amount? And the biggest, I would say, people either want to spend between $50 and $100, and that $50 to $100 range is going to be perfect. I highly recommend you get a combo as opposed to a rod and reel separately, just because of the simple fact that you're going to get something, a rod and a reel that's balanced, and you're going to get a rod and a reel for a discounted price as opposed to getting them separately. That's just how it works. Combos are a little bit cheaper by 10, 20 bucks typically, sometimes more. So I really say, like, if you're spending between 50 and 100 bucks, what you should be looking for is something that's comfortable for you. 6'6", 7 foot, either a medium action if you like throwing weightless Texas rigs, or if you like throwing, you know, lighter stuff. If you like throwing heavier stuff like 1/2 ounce chatterbaits, 3/8 ounce stuff, spinner baits, things like that, medium heavy might be better for you. 7 footer, it's going to give you a little bit more leverage on a fish, a little bit longer casting distance. 6.5 is great if you're a younger guy, shorter guy like me. If you're fishing in a river situation where you got trees around you, you know, a shorter rod sometimes helps. But typically, $50 to $100, it's all you need to spend to get yourself something that's going to have a centrifugal brake system, a fine-tune knob, and a drag, and it's going to allow you to learn how to use a bait caster, which is the most important thing you can do. Now, for my people that are willing to spend $100 to $200, what you're going to want to look for is this specific thing. I haven't talked about it in this video yet. However, I will mention it now. It's a dual braking system. A dual braking system is going to help you tremendously. If you love the bass fish, if you really, really, really are serious about bass fishing, a dual brake system is just going to allow you to get more customizations out of your reel. Meaning you're going to be able to dial and fine tune that reel much, much better. Okay, so for this one, and I'll just mention, between $100 and $150, you should at least get 4 brakes on that dual braking system. But there are some, if you look carefully, you know, for about $150 to $200, that'll have 4 to 6 brakes on the dual braking system. And that's, in my opinion, where I like to be. I wouldn't shop anything under a 6 brakes, just because of the experience level that I have and what I've noticed to be so effective with these. But I will also say, just to give a few shout outs, I know a lot of brands and stuff. There is the Lose Custom XP. That's a phenomenal setup. It's literally $150 roughly, or just under $150. And I believe, yeah, right around $150. And that gives you 4 brakes. Now, I will say you can also get something that is a little bit cheaper for $100 by Bass Pro Shops. They have a formula setup, and I love selling that formula setup simply because of the fact that they've got a dual braking system, and it's $100. You get a rod, you get a reel, and they're all gonna last you a couple to 4 years at least, you know, depending on how much you fish. And it's gonna allow you to learn so much as far as bait casting goes, because you're gonna have the dual braking system. You're literally only spending $100. So in my opinion, I'd rather get 2 of those than buy 1 combo for $200, especially when I'm starting out. Because what you're gonna find is you're gonna wanna build your arsenal. Essentially, if you're a big bass fisherman, you're gonna find that if you're throwing jigs, you're not gonna wanna throw that on the same you know, same exact setup that you're throwing your weightless Texas rigs or on your light, you know, chatterbait rod or something like that. Like, you're gonna find different techniques that are better for different rod lengths, rod actions, rod, you know, lines, as I talked in that last video, and different gear ratios. Like, these are all things, all different variables and, you know, things that can benefit you while you're out fishing, especially bass fishing. And yeah, I just hope this helps. And real quick, I just want to show you what the dual braking system is. So obviously you got your centrifugal brake here, and you get your dual braking system here. And the dual braking system is phenomenal. I do have another video on the channel doing this exact kind of thing, like a bait casting tutorial. And I will say I'm proud of that video. It's a little bit longer than I'd like, and I feel like over time I just get so much better at explaining, just because of experience and stuff. So yeah, I just really hope this video helped. But if you do want to learn more about that dual braking system, I do have another video, and I'll copy and paste it in the description of this video. And yeah, I just hope you guys are out there giving a baitcaster a try if you love bass fishing, because ultimately it's so important for you to just learn. You know, I don't want you to go out there and struggle, obviously, but if you love bass fishing, you're gonna eventually want to hop up to a bait casting rod and reel, and there's no better time than now. 2 years sacrifice might not even take you 2 years. Like, I was really young when I learned, and I just tell everybody it took me 2 years to get decent with it, but I was also like 7 when I learned. Shout out to my dad, you're a homie. Can't believe how young I was starting off with a baitcaster. But yeah, anyway, I hope you guys learned something from this, and comment below if there's anything else that you guys want to learn, or if there's something that you want me to dive in depth on. I'd be happy to help you out in any way, shape, or form. Or feel free to just reach out to me on social media. I'm always on my DMs, all that kind of stuff, so I'd be happy to, you know, answer back any kind of questions that you may have. So hope you guys are out there catching some fish and whipping around a baitcaster. All right, peace. All right, real quick, I'm just gonna add this to the video just because I think this is gonna help a lot of other questions maybe that may be out there. To get a good cast, what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna want a rod and a lure that's gonna give you some load on that rod, okay? Because what you need is to launch that rod or that lure out there with the rod. You're not using the reel to launch the lure out there, you're using the rod. So I like to have a decent amount of line to give yourself, you know, a nice bend in that to load up the energy. And then obviously you're gonna release, so you're gonna fling that bait out there just like that. I literally, you know, obviously was not trying with that. That's just showing you how to load up a rod with a lure, which is super important with fishing in general. And sometimes just not knowing that that's what you're doing is it's kind of keeping you held back. So hopefully that even might help you a little bit. Another pro tip, no joke, if you want to catch more fish, karma's real. Pick up after your fishing spots. Look around before you leave. If you see some garbage, pick it up, because a homie forgot to pick it up. He accidentally left it there. And take it to the garbage on your way out. You guys are catching them. Peace out. Love y'all.